Stones whistle in the air, the crowd roars with anger, and he stands without flinching and challenges, "He who is without sin among you, let him be the first to throw a stone at her." This is not the beginning, this is the culmination of a rebellion against hypocrisy, but how did a humble artisan from Galilee get to a point where the whole world holds its breath? The time of Tiberius, emperor of Rome, whose legions trample the land of Judea. Here, in dusty Galilee, a boy is born into the family of a tecton, not just a carpenter, but a builder whose hands know stone and wood. Surrounded by whispers of prophecy, he grows up in a world where Roman taxes stifle him and Pharisees dictate his every step of faith. Hands calloused from tools, he is Jesus, son of Joseph, with brothers and sisters, including Jacob, who would later become leader. Not a shepherd from an idol, but a worker from Sepphoris, where Roman villas grow under his hands, absorbing the Hellenic influences that shape his view of the world. John's voice booms at the Jordan, "Repent." The crowds flock, and then he comes, not as a king, but as one of many. He plunges into the waters, and the sky is torn by a voice, "This is my beloved Son." A moment of inspiration when an ordinary tecton becomes a rebel calling for change. He leaves the workshop and calls, "Follow me." Fishermen throw their nets, publicans leave coins. But inside is the loneliness of a prophet who knows that the path leads to rejection. He speaks Aramaic, with hints of Hebrew and Greek, in a world where words can topple empires. Legends whisper of childhood miracles, clay birds soaring into the sky, but these are second-century apocrypha, not facts, but folklore filling in the gaps. The reality is harsher. He grows up in a family where his brothers doubt him, as Josephus mentions James, the brother of the so-called Christ. The Romans celebrate it. Tacitus writes about the execution under Pilate in the reign of Tiberius. The movement survives despite persecution. Pliny reports to Trajan, Christians sing hymns, as to God. This is not a myth, but a historical figure confirmed by hostile sources. A stone from Caesarea, found in 1961, confirms, Pontius Pilate, Prefect 26-36. The context of the execution is real, but the details are controversial. The Gospels contradict. Mark places the crucifix after the Easter meal, John, before. The temple in Jerusalem is in full swing, tables are flying, coins are clinking on the stones. The house of prayer was turned into a den of thieves. He shouts, rebelling against corruption, where victims are sold for gold. This is a turn, an escalation, that will lead to arrest. But there are shadows of doubt. Mythologists say it is fiction, parallels with Osiris, contradictions in the genealogies of Matthew and Luke. Ermine objects, Joseph and Tacitus confirm, he lived, preached, and was executed. Fact versus myth, the consensus of historians is on the side of reality. In Nazareth there is a rejection, isn't he the carpenter's son? They whisper, the brothers, including Jacob, do not believe. He teaches, but they drive. Inside is the pain of a prophet in his homeland, where familiar faces become strangers. In Ethiopia, he has African features, in 6th century Coptic icons, his black skin shining. Timkat is a festival where his baptism comes to life in the rivers, mixing faith with African heritage, the Ark of the Covenant in the shadows. In Japan, a samurai in a kimono, the work of Sadao Watanabe, where he merges with Buddhism. Kakure Kurishiten has been hiding his faith for centuries. Now in the manga, Saint Young Men, he jokes with Buddha, a cultural bridge through persecution. The desert burns, 40 days without food, temptations strike, power, bread, jumping from the temple. He replies, not by bread alone. Inner demons, doubts about the mission, but he comes out stronger, ready to rebel. Jewish sources accuse, the Talmud calls him a sorcerer, a false prophet. The Pharisees see a threat, he heals on the Sabbath, breaks the law. But he answers, the Sabbath is for man, not man for the Sabbath. Two perspectives, rebel or heretic. In Mexico, El Dios de Maíz, with Aztec symbols, in the altars of the Day of the Dead. Rivera mixes with Catholicism in the murals, Semana Santa, processions where his passions come to life in the streets, a global echo. Mount Tabor, the light blinds, the voice thunders, this is my son. The disciples fall on their faces. A moment of power, but one that foretells suffering, a turning point where glory meets the shadow of the cross. In India, a yogi in a lotus, Verma's paintings, Bollywood adapts, Jesus, 1973, his story with a Hindi accent. Dalit theology sees a liberatora from caste, a cultural shift in the dialogue of faiths. In China, in the ink style, He Chi creates harmony. Underground churches are growing despite prohibitions, memes are mixed with Confucius, love your neighbor echoing the golden rule. Global imprint in restrictions. Gibson's 2004 film In Flames, Jews as culprits, echoes of blood libels. But historians clarify that the Roman execution by Pilate was not reluctant, but cruel. The texts are full of bias, but the Roman guilt is factual. Gethsemane, let this cup pass away. Sweat drips like blood, students snore. Internal conflict, fear of death, but humility, not my will. The rebel breaks down, but gets up. Table in the upper room, this body is mine. Bread breaks, wine flows. Then shock, one of you will betray. Judas goes into the night. A moment of betrayal where trust is broken. Early heresies, Arius says, created, not eternal. Nicaea decides, consubstantial. Gnostics see in spirit, without flesh. Islam, Prophet Isa, the cross is an illusion. Theology versus history. Calvary trembles under the footsteps of the soldiers. The cross pierces the ground, nails pierce the flesh. The crowd jeers, save yourself. He hangs, blood drips, the sky turns black at noon. God, why did you leave me? A scream breaks the silence. A moment of empathy where the pain of loneliness pierces the heart like a centurion's spear. The Romans divide the clothes, Pilate writes, King of the Jews. The breathing weakens, it's finished, and the head falls. The earth shakes, the curtain in the temple is torn in two. Dawn of the third day, the stone has been rolled away, the coffin is empty. Women are horrified, he's not here. The disciples are running, Peter looks in, the swaddling clothes are lying there. Meetings in the garden, on the road to Emmaus, did not our heart burn? The resurrection is a turning point where death is defeated and a movement is reborn from the ashes, spreading from Jerusalem to Rome. The legacy echoes from Tacitus commemorating the execution to Pliny seeing worship as a god. Brothers like Jacob lead the church, the Apocrypha fills in the gaps with legends. Controversies rage, myth or fact, sorcerer or prophet, but the influence is global, in Ethiopia, Tin Cat, in Japan, Hidden Faith, in Mexico, Day of the Dead, in India, the Liberator Yogi, in China, underground hymns. Antisemitism from the texts, heresies from Nicaea, but the essence is, love your neighbor as yourself, the context of the greatest commandment, an echo of Leviticus, exalted by him. He is a rebel who challenged systems, from the Pharisees to Rome, turning loneliness into renewal. The universality is simple, challenge unjust systems with compassionate defiance, turning personal isolation into communal renewal through forgiveness and ethical action. Now the question is for you, in your world full of hypocrisy and power, will you dare to turn the tables of corruption by loving your enemy as your neighbor, or will you remain in the shadows, watching history repeat itself?